Thank you for joining us today for another exciting deep dive into Trailblazers Uncut, where I get to talk to some amazing female founders who have set up some amazing businesses along the way. They've met challenges, there's been all sorts of things that have gone on. And we talk to find out about their business and find out what drove them to start their business and about all those challenges that people don't want to tell you because obviously doing a business is easy, isn't it? Or is it? So today we've got joining us on Trailblazers Uncut, Julianne Ponan from Creative Nature.
Yay! I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much. Already love the Evas, but this is brilliant to be able to be on a podcast too.
Well, we loved when you came through the Evas, and it's been fabulous for us to get to know a little bit about you and your business. But for anybody listening today, do you want to just tell them what it is that Creative Nature does?
Definitely. So I'm Julianne, and the reason Creative Nature was born was because I suffer severely from anaphylaxis. So for anyone that doesn't know, anaphylaxis is a severe allergy where I could eat nuts, sesame, or chickpeas, lentils, and I could potentially die. My throat closes and I can't breathe. So I wanted to create a food product, well, lots of different food products that enable everyone to eat around the same table, and also no one feels left out. I don't want to be having something completely different to my friends. I want to have the same thing and I want it to taste just as delicious. So Creative Nature was born from my kitchen table, and we do baking kits, snack bars, superfoods, and little chocolate balls as well.
Crikey, it must be a very scary thing to live with.
Definitely. It's like, I don't know how to explain it, but it's kind of like playing Russian roulette with your life 3 times a day. And every time you I don't know, you go to the shop and it says, for example, vegan on the front, and then on the back it says may contain milk or egg. You think, oh my gosh, I could have an allergy. Or for me, that's with nuts, and everything, like 80 to 90% of things says may contain nuts. And to me, even the tiniest amount could trigger a reaction. And I hate being the one that goes at a restaurant going, oh no, I better not have that. Because then you feel like you're putting a burden on all your friends and also the staff as well. So it is quite difficult at times.
Yeah. So how did that shape you growing up? Because have you had something you're born with?
So the first allergic reaction I had, or anaphylactic one, was when I was 2. I don't remember that one at all, but my mum's recollection of that is so clear as day. She said she cannot forget it. And actually, even after she had the stroke, she still remembers that. So it must be so ingrained in her brain. And she said she got a call from my nursery, my Montessori, and they said, Julianne's collapsed. She's not breathing. We've called an ambulance. We think it could be an allergic reaction. And all I'd had was a tiny cookie. I didn't know I had allergies. My whole parents don't have allergies. My grandparents don't have allergies. So it wasn't heard of in my family. And yeah, that's how I was diagnosed. And then since then, when I was younger, there was about 14 major times that I'd been in hospital having had a severe allergic reaction from something I'd eaten or touched. And that was, yeah, it was really, really scary. So I have pretty much, I'd say, had it since I was very young. There are ones I grew out of though. I grew out of milk. I did the milk allergy ladder and introduced milk very slowly to my diet. And I'm so grateful to be able to have milk now, but it's more of a maintenance rather than I actually like the product.
So I'm sure there's going to be mums who are listening to this that are thinking, I absolutely understand why Julianne's mum remembers that point, because it must have been scary for her as well as you, obviously. I can't imagine how difficult it must be. But at the same time, you've spent your entire life from being 2 having to be careful about eating these things, eating anything that might have nuts in it. But when did you realize from your experience that it could be a business?
Gosh, that's such a hard question. I don't know the exact time I realized that could be a business, but I remember when I was a child, I was very much into business without knowing I was. So for example, we used to have guests round to the house, and Mum would never allow people in with like nuts or anything like that, which was great. But there would be So for example, if they did bring anything allergic, I would charge them and say, no, you can't eat that and you have to pay me. And so it was just little things like that. And then also I had to get drinks for people and stuff like that. And I was like, well, I'm not going to do it unless you pay me to do it. So I started sort of building up little things. And at university, I did the same thing. And yeah, so it's always kind of been ingrained in me that I wanted to do something. But I think the impact for me really was the thing that pushed it over the line. So when I was 9 years old, not a huge amount of people know this, but I was rushed to hospital and I nearly died. I was given 4 hours left to live. And it was really scary for my parents. And I didn't know if I was going to survive. I wanted to be a ballet dancer at that time. When I came out of the hospital, the operation, there was tubes everywhere. It was like a nightmare. And I was in hospital for a whole year, so I missed a whole year of school. And they didn't know how I was going to be, how I was going to walk, how I was going to, just normal things. And at that point, I was so, because they said to me that potentially I could have this same problem again, and they didn't know why it was caused. And my mum said to me, you seem really scared. And I said, I'm scared that I'm going to miss out on things. I'm scared that I'm going to have a shorter life. And she said to me, well, you just got to make sure you do things quicker then. You've just got to make impact quicker. And that really like resonated with me, I guess, even from being such a child. I knew I had to do something that was going to, so people didn't forget me, so people would remember me after I'm gone. And I think that's something that none of us really think about until we're given something where you don't know how many days you have left. And I think that's so important part of my journey. And so that's what I guess at a certain age, I did all the things that my mum wanted me to do. I went to university. I wasn't the best student, if I'm honest, but if it wasn't an A, it was an F with my mum. So we had to study quite hard. And I went over to Beijing and I took my first role in finance, in investment banking. I didn't hate it. I enjoyed it. I loved it. But I always wanted to do this thing that would be able to impact people's lives. And I knew that was to do with allergies. And I guess that's when I really realised, when I said to Mum, look, I don't want to do this anymore. I know you wanted me in finance. I know you want me with this job, this car, this apartment. But actually, I want to do something more than that. And she wasn't very happy at the beginning, to be honest. She said I was giving up a lot. But my dad is a business owner and he's built businesses from the ground up. He came to this country with nothing and he is very proud to have built his own businesses. So I guess that gave me a bit of confidence that I could as well. And he also said to me, if all good things go wrong, you could probably come and live with me again if you need to.
But it sounds that, one, you were very entrepreneurial from a very early age, but also you had that role model in your father, who, as you said, started with nothing. And what's the worst that could happen? In a way, you'd already been through the worst. You know, to spend a year in hospital, be so close to losing your life, to then think, well, it can't get any worse than this, can it?
Exactly. It's, and when you're given those situations, I think that's when you really have that motivation and drive, and also the fear kind of subsides because, as you said, like what's the worst that can happen from it? But yeah, I did feel it very lonely though in the first years of Creative Nature. I found it really difficult from this aspect of none of my friends were in business. So they were all going down a completely different path and we were sort of like pulling away from each other. And I didn't really have time to see them. So I missed out on things like engagements. I didn't even go to my really good, like my best friend's engagement, all of these things. And I lost that along the way. But I think that's what really brings me back to the Evas, really. And I just, obviously I didn't have that at the beginning of my journey, but I wish I did. I honestly think that the community the Evas have, it's all about bringing you together and uplifting you. And it's not about you just doing well, like championing the winners of the group. It's actually when things aren't going well, that's when the Evas are very different to any community out there. So yeah, I just want everyone to know that's listening that if you aren't part of the Evas, please like just get involved somehow. Like, it doesn't have to be through the awards, it can be through so many different things, but at least give it a go.
Well, I appreciate that, and I'm glad that that was your experience. But let's talk about those early days and the community, because I know from all of the women that I speak to who run businesses, you touched on something there. It's really lonely, isn't it? Like,
It's really lonely. Like, people don't tell you how lonely it is, and the buck stops with you at the end of the day. You can't hide from that. And I guess one of the biggest things is admitting it, because you have this facade on LinkedIn that everything's great and on Instagram and everywhere. But behind those scenes, it's like that's where I guess a lot of the weight is, and not having people to talk to. But I found surrounding myself with other entrepreneurs really did help me. The Goldman Sachs course, the 10,000 Small Businesses, that really propelled my business. I was able to be in a room of 40 different people from businesses from sort of £500,000 to 20 million. But everyone treated you with respect, and it was like the board you couldn't afford. So I found that
yeah.
really a fantastic way to level up my business, and I used that as my growth strategy and my plan, and we doubled that year in turnover as well at that point. So I thought that was
I
fantastic.
love that saying though as well, the board you couldn't afford, because that's another part of it. As you start out, you don't, for many of us and for many of the women I connect with, we don't start out with like a business that's got massive turnover. You have to put the time in, you have to build it and create it. And, there are stages where you can't afford things like the expertise of having an amazing board or Ned's on board with you or what have you. But the community aspect of it, of sharing those shared experiences and shared challenges is really important. But when you were launching, say, into Tesco's and Ocado, and I believe at that point it was just you and your husband, how did that feel when you first got those orders?
It was, I remember going out for investment just before that happened, and I got turned down by like everyone, and I had a really good network because I'd been in banking before, but I still got no's. I got called a little girl, that we would never launch into a supermarket with two people. It's non-existent. That just doesn't happen. And we persevered through that. And yeah, I remember the show that we went to. It was Natural and Organic Products Europe. We spent a load, like the last bit of our marketing spend that we had, which was very small at the time, and exhibited, and we managed to sign Ocado on the stand, which was
Wow.
super cool. It was really exciting, and I couldn't believe it. The buyer loved the products and everything. And Tesco's, we didn't even know we actually met them. So it was that same show, and 3 weeks later, she gave me a call and said, You might not remember me, but I'm Lauren, the Tesco buyer, etc." And she said, "I didn't tell you who I was. I told you a little porcupine because I didn't want everyone bombarding me." And she said, "I really love the product. I want to launch multiple of them, but I want the new packaging design, and I want it across 77 stores nationwide." For us, that was huge because it was two people, and she thought we were a big team. She thought it was everyone that we had employed for that show, but no, that was just a outward facing look of the brand, which was fantastic. I even was pretending to be my own marketing person, my own secretary, everything at that time. So yeah, then she said, "Yes, I want it." And I just said yes. She said, "Can you commit to it? And can you launch in 3 weeks' time?" I said yes, spoke to Matt downstairs in the warehouse, and he said, "Absolutely not. We won't be able to do it. So call her back and say no." And I said, "No, we're not going to do that. We're going to find a way." And then, yeah, we found a way. We had my parents are divorced, and they even came together and helped me hand label hundreds of thousands of tubs. And yeah, the pallets they were all ready in 3 weeks' time. We spent till about 2:30 or so in the morning every day hand labeling, and they were ready to go on that 3 week and the trucks came in, and then we couldn't even load the trucks because I'd forgotten that we didn't have a forklift. Forgotten, I just didn't even think about it. I just didn't even, it was just not something that I understood, I guess, from a supply chain point of view. And we had to find a way to get those pallets onto those trucks. And I cannot thank Matt enough, who is my now partner. And he pulled all 10 800-kilogram pallets down the end of the road. And we managed to get the tile company to load them onto the forklifts. And thank goodness, because otherwise we were going to be fined so much money from Tesco. So it launched. And it went into store, and we ran into store, and we bought the products 3 days later, and it was one of the most amazing feelings. And I think that as an entrepreneur, you don't really get that anywhere else. Like that feeling of you've taken something from nothing, just an idea, to directly on shelf, and see someone else as well pick it up and go, this product is safe for me. It's just a feeling you can't explain.
Okay, I want to go back to a few points on that then, because that's a story, and you're smiling when you're telling it. So I can see that even though it was crazy, and sometimes it is those crazy things that we do that really, I think they cement us moving forward, don't they? Like you said, I never even thought about putting them on the trucks because you'd never done that before. So why would you? You know, we learn these things as we go along, don't we? But let's go back to one of the first things you said on that story was about the person that wouldn't lend you the money, that said you're a little girl.
Yes, they came back afterwards and wanted to buy the business actually, which was quite funny. But
this was what, sorry?
They came back and wanted to buy the business afterwards, which was, I happily said, no, I'm not looking for your investment or you to buy the business at that point.
So when you refer, I'm assuming it was a he.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, I gathered that. How old were you when he called you that?
23.
But you already started your own business.
I know. It seems he did, yeah, exactly. And I think throughout the whole journey, it has been like that. And I know other women also have faced that, and also have faced not only the age card, but also the fact that they're women as well.
Yeah.
So I just think that there's so much work to be done there, but we need not just women behind, we need men as supporters too.
Absolutely. Yes, we do. We need those male allies to recognise what happens within the culture out there at some places. But yeah, and that terminology, you know, and it's just the little as well, isn't it?
Oh yeah, they still till today at shows I will get, oh, you can't be the CEO. I am the CEO.
So how long ago was that?
Over 10 years ago now.
Wow.
So yes. Wow, yeah, it's been a journey. It's been ups and downs and roller coaster, but I'm so pleased that we grew with amazing people around us as well. I think that's one of the big things, that throughout the journey you can make a lot of wrong hires, but you can also make right ones as well for the company. And I do find that can be one of the hardest things, is trusting someone else within your team. A lot of people don't want to let go as well of responsibility. And when you're first starting out, you do every job in the company. So you know exactly how long it takes to pack a box, or how long it takes to do an invoice, or anything like that. But you might not also be the best person to do that job too. And I saw it very recently with even a person that we just recently brought on board, and I sent them a piece of artwork to do. Actually, it wasn't me, it was Matt that sent them the piece of artwork, and literally they were back within half an hour and had already completed it. And yet previously this was taking so much longer, and I couldn't understand why. And it's just about that right skill set, the right person, right attitude, willing to put that work in, and suddenly something that's going to take 2 hours is going to take them 15 minutes. So it's about really leaning into that and understanding some people might not be right for the role that you've put them in. They might have applied for that role, and as much as you want them to fit that role, sometimes you have to say goodbye to them because they just can't fit that role. And it's nothing to do with you or them in terms of personally. It's more just
Right fit for
right fit.
the job. Yeah, skills. So how many are in your team now?
So we have 6 people on the manufacturing line and the factory, and then we have 7 people that work for Creative Nature in the offices, and also we have 2 people in South Africa now as well.
Great stuff. So you went from Tesco winning Tesco's and Ocado, and well done, especially to signing up on a stand. You know, a company like Ocado on the day, that's great. You know, hats off to you. After that, what happened on that journey? So you went from Tesco's and Ocado, which was massive for a small business, massive achievement. What happened next?
What happened next? We went on the Goldman Sachs program from then, and we also at that point pulled out of Holland and Barrett. So we had gone into Holland and Barrett as one of our first ever listings, and I was so worried at the time about pulling out. Like imagine Holland and Barrett, it's a big name, and everyone obviously wants to be in there if you're in sort of a healthier snack bar, etc. However, the commercials just weren't stacking up, and I'll be honest, we were paying to be on shelf at that point. We were not making any money from that listing at all. And I spoke to advisors, I spoke to my family, and they said, "Oh no, but it's Holland and Barrett. You shouldn't be pulling out." And I said, "But it's not a sustainable business model. Like, you need to grow without investment. You have to be profitable. Otherwise, it's just
It's
going to
not
be
business.
exactly."
Yeah.
And no matter how many people tell you that, "Oh well, but it's revenue. But if you don't have money coming in that's going to cover all of this big VC backing you or big angel investments, you have to make that profit." So cash is king, and I do say that cash does become king, and you have to really understand that model. And so for me, one of the biggest things that I did, and it was a big pivotal moment, was when I said we're pulling out of Holland and Barrett. And everyone thought I was crazy at that time, I think, but I did. And what the whole plan was and the strategy was actually our product we want to make mainstream. We want it to be in the likes of Tesco, Sainsbury's, Asda, Co-op, etc. And that was the goal, and that was the strategy, and how to get into them. How were we going to grow into Asda? How were we going to grow into other channels, for example, aviation? And that's the route we took. We started to model out, okay, how can we get into Sainsbury's? I literally pitched Sainsbury's the first time we went there with not real product. I pitched them with a recipe that was made in a plastic grip seal bag with boards, like boards for design. So all you could see was the design, nothing else. So didn't have a finished product or anything like that. We got the listing off of the back of that meeting. So if they believe in the vision, the product, and they can understand the commercials and understand how you can get there, there are opportunities. I always feel that people wait till everything's perfect, but not everything's going to be perfect all the time. It's just impossible. There's always room for improvement. We're improving now. Every single day we're improving our strategy, our streamlining our production. So what you really need to do is go out there and get feedback. The product does need to be good enough to go into retail, but you need to get the feedback and understand what that retailer wants as well. So I would really encourage anyone out there that's starting a product business is maybe don't start with Sainsbury's, but go to other smaller wholesalers. Even when the product isn't 100% finished with packaging, get that feedback from them.
Yeah, no, very good. But I think when you were talking about Holland and Barrett, for some people, it's to win a retailer with a big brand like that, it's like slightly his ego. You know, it's like, well, you know, this is great. I'm in, you know, Holland and Barrett or wherever else it might be. But you were really right. It's down to the figures. And if it's not making money, it's not a business really, is it, that's sustainable. So well done for thinking it with your head, you know, because it's obviously helps you to get to this stage. So you touched on aviation a bit there. So you retailers and also in aviation. So what products and how is that working? You know, how did you get into that? Was it a niche that you saw?
So with that, so I guess some of the story comes from after we were just about to launch into Sainsbury's and Co-op, we had been approached by Dragon's Den 4 times at that point, and we'd said no, no, no every time because I was so worried about going on a TV series first of all, and I saw how I'd watched that show a lot, and I'd seen how people were like ripped apart, and people that I knew that I thought were quite credible. So it did concern me, but on the fourth time we were launching into Sainsbury's and Co-op, I still had no investment. I bootstrapped everything. Everything was
Wow.
profitable. Yeah, we were a profitable company, but we weren't huge. We were, I think at the time we were probably about 500,000 turnover, maybe. Small. We're just about to go into Sainsbury's and Co-op, as I said, and said yes to Dragon's Den at that point. And I said yes to them because yes, I was interested in investment, but also I needed to get the marketing around how do people see my product as quick as possible that we've launched at Sainsbury's and Co-op. A TV series is definitely going to be able to do that. It's going to be probably worth about £200,000, just that one segment that I would have to spend elsewhere. So that's what we did. We went on Dragon's Den. We sold out when that aired. We sold out in every single store within a week. We couldn't get stock in fast enough. The website was crazy busy. It was just mad, and it was fantastic because we got a lot of press off the back of that. Wasn't my best performance, if I'm honest, and I didn't like the way it was packaged up and how it made me look. But at the end of the day, it did exactly what I needed. It got people's eyes on the product. And I think anyone that's thinking about it, think about the reason why you would go on Dragon's Den rather than just the investment or worrying about what people think about you. What is the end goal? And the end goal is for us is brand exposure and sales. So that's what happened then. We didn't get the investment on Dragon's Den. Oh, sorry, we did get the investment on Dragon's Den, but we turned it down. So we didn't take the money that was offered to us, which was, again, people said, oh, why wouldn't you have taken that from Deborah Meaden? But that was the decision I made. I thought the valuation was not good enough. And within a year later, we did do our first ever round of investment and the only one we've ever done in the company. And in 14 days, we raised over 500,000 on Cedars at a 6 million valuation. And Deborah Meaden had given us a £300,000 valuation. So it was very different.
Yeah.
So back to your question on aviation, was after that when we were able to really start to, I guess, focus on the channels we wanted to focus on. Aviation had always been the back of my mind. I remember having an allergy on a plane, but also how difficult it is. The time you are most anxious when you have anaphylaxis is when you're in that plane because you're in a metal box, 35,000 feet. Where can you get medical attention if you have an allergy? If you eat anything that's wrong, this could cost you your life. So for me, that seemed like such a fantastic fit of how do I remove nuts off of planes, but replace it with things that people won't know the difference. They won't bat an eyelid if they got my snack, and my snack will cater for all the top 14 allergens. And I really started to speak to airlines, and Virgin Atlantic were one of the first ones to launch us on board. The buyer was fantastic. She really lent into understanding, the sentence she said that really got her was when I pitched and I said, would you eat something that said may contain glass? And she said she can never forget that, and that's how she explains it to everyone now, for anyone that's wondering why stock something that's got a may contain on the back. And she launched a product, and we've been flying ever since. We've had lots of new products on board Virgin, and we had 2 products in the Wonderwall set, which was pretty much unheard of for a challenger brand, and no one even knew that they were allergen free. Like no one knew they were top 14 allergen free because they tasted just as good as everything else.
Well done, you.
So it was really cool. But now we're on, I think it's 7 airlines, and I want to say 9 by in literally 3 months' time. We should hopefully be on 9 airlines.
So, where next?
Where next? So we're really focusing on the kids area. So when you're diagnosed with allergies, a lot of the time it's when you're a child. We've recently launched our kids hidden veg bars. So it's like berry and beetroot, mango and carrot. That's gone into Tesco, Ocado. We're really trying to grow that area. We've got our eyes on certain airline carriers. So British Airways, if you want to stock us, please come and stock us. We think we would be an amazing asset to your set. But in terms of other places in the world, I can tell you now we have literally signed a deal with Japan. So we're launching over there, which is very, very exciting. The product lands as we are speaking, it will land in Japan. And that is due to the increase of allergies over there. So at the moment, there's a huge problem with specifically dairy intolerance and also peanut allergy too. So that's the next step for us. And countries that are really, I guess, struggling for products with allergies alongside aviation and finally food service is a big channel that we're just dipping our toe into the water in at the moment.
Well, you've done amazing, and well done on Japan too. So I think my final question is, if you were to go back to that 9-year-old that spent a year in hospital, knowing what you know now, what would you say to her?
I would probably say don't be as scared as you always are to take a risk. Don't doubt yourself as much, and don't worry as much about what others think of it. Just keep going, and yeah, just don't doubt yourself. I think that's the major thing for me, because I genuinely believe I would have started earlier if I didn't have as much fear as I did.
Thank you so much for sharing some of your story. I think we could stay for hours, but you have a business to run. You've been really generous at giving us your time, and I do appreciate it. If the listeners want to find out how they can find out more or make a purchase, where do we direct them?
So you can go to creativenaturesuperfoods.co.uk to make a purchase. But you can also find us in retailers like Tesco, Sainsbury's, Ocado. And also, if you want to follow us on social media, we do so much for people with allergies, not just to buy the product, but to help them navigate any anxiety that you're having. So please check us out at Creative Nature.
Great stuff. Thank you so much.